All right, good afternoon. We'll call the City Charter Commission meeting 5:30 Tuesday, March 4th, 2025 to order. Normally, we don't do this, but a roll call?
I mean, we have a quorum, I don't know that we need
Right.
to, but if I can, I'm going to.
No, that's fine. Commissioners are all right with that? We've really never done one before. All right, on to item 2, approval of the minutes. Looking for a motion.
I move to approve.
I would second that with one just grammatical error on the opening paragraph. It says City Attorney Robert, and the T is missing on Robert. With that correction, I'd second the motion.
All right, we have a motion on the floor. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carried. On to the new business. Looks like we're going to have a lot of discussion. 3.1, discussion on the following sections. The first one on is Section 2, wards and precincts. And I do believe our finance director does have some notes from the city manager.
This one was more on me, I guess. I contacted the county. We have the precincts more so because of the county, so that they can draw their district lines. Without dividing the city up into more pieces, they can't get the even population they need for their districts. So that's why we have those precincts. If that's something, we would have to redraw the ward lines, and I don't know if there's a way to get it, because you can't divide a ward in two without having a precinct line. So the county we'd have to have the precincts if they can't get the population split the way they need to get their even districts. But even if that's something we want to explore more, I think we'd have to wait till 2032 when we redistrict again. Otherwise, we'd be forcing commissioners to run again midterm, and I just think it would be easier to wait until redistricting if that was something you wanted to explore. Kelly Hodebeck was on vacation. I got an email back from her, and she, gave me the brief answer about not being able to split the wards into without a defined precinct line. And she's, like I said, she's on vacation. She said she could look into it more if we wanted her to. But that was the answer I got from her at this point in time.
And maybe just a little bit of background. I think I maybe raised that question. I said it seems like maybe an unnecessary layer in that you have to then print separate ballots, and people get confused because they don't know which precinct they live in.
It is one of our biggest headaches during elections. But like I said, I don't know if they can get what they need without having those other division lines to go along. And it only affects 2 of our wards, really. 2 of the wards aren't split at all. Wards, is it 1 and 2 of the wards are split and have different commissioners in the precincts, but the other 2 wards are fine. They should be the same.
All right, so we're okay with that one?
Sure.
All right, Section 28, duties and powers of the mayor.
All right, I'm the one that brought that up. It's just, and I was, obviously I'm new to this commission. When I was reading through it, it said, subject to the mayor's veto. And I thought, wow, the mayor can veto, whenever they want. And then when I got later on, I got to Section 71, it talks about the council overriding the veto. And I just thought it might be, at other places in the charter, it does say, the mayor, the mayor shall have the power to veto all ordinances, resolutions, and acts adopted by the city. And oftentimes it says like subject to the other terms of this charter or something. Like I said, in just reading this, it just looks like the mayor has that absolute right, but the mayor doesn't. And you got to go down to Section 71 to find that out, which I did. About 3 days later, got to Section 71, found out the mayor doesn't have the absolute right to veto ordinances and things. That was just an observation. I don't know if it'd be clear to.
Can you clarify that for me, Mike? I raised the same question. It looked to me like the mayor could veto and there was no override, but in Section 71, does it allow the council to override?
In Section 71, it does.
4/5 vote, right?
It does allow the council to override.
71 just talks about basically payments and purchases or whatever that they could, isn't it? I couldn't remember. I looked at that one briefly, but
I guess we don't have 71 printed here, but it does talk about overriding the veto.
Yeah, it says in section 71, a vetoed motion shall be reconsidered by the council, and if upon reconsideration it is passed by a 4/5 vote of its membership, the motion shall have the same effect as if approved by the mayor.
You're reading 71?
Yep,
Yeah, because I was,
that's in approving or ratifying payments
Right.
already made. Well, no, never mind. I'd have to read farther back.
yeah, expenditure of public funds or granting of licenses or permits, that's when they can veto it, the motion.
So I don't know if this was Chris's note or one of yours, but he has the suggestion, or this on here, for this one, a simple revision in section 28 to state the mayor shall have the power to veto as spelled out in section 71, and then eliminate the rest of the paragraph in section 28.
I thought it might be clear if this section directed you to 71, because you have to read a long time to find out that the mayor doesn't have an absolute right to veto.
So I think it was Chris's intention that as you discuss them, if you're all in agreement, or we can suggest to have the attorney move on and make some of those revisions before the next meeting.
I'm in favor of referencing section 71 in some manner.
Second. I don't know if we do it that way.
I was, do we want to do it at the end, or do we want to, because we're not a really,
If we do each individual one, I think it will be clearer,
okay.
I think.
All right, so we have a motion on the floor to ratify section 28, duties and powers of the mayor. I've got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Referencing section 71 in the language here somewhere.
To add to section 28 to reference section 7.
Section 71.
And directing the city attorney to draft language, right?
Correct, ratify section 28, referencing 71.
So just to be clear, the mayor can only veto those financial,
I think in 71, it's only talking about those financial items.
So-
I don't
so
think it's
ma-
talking about other items.
okay, so the mayor does have an absolute right to veto, and the council cannot override it.
That's the way I would read it. I don't know. Kara, do you have a comment on that?
But only with the expenditure of public funds, correct?
In section 71.
Right.
Good evening, Charter Commission. We haven't thoroughly looked at this, but let's see, section 71. It looks to be that this is the only procedure for a council override is under this section, correct? And I think if it's only for that particular power, then, but we'd want to double check to confirm that, but it does look like it's limited under this section.
If it is limited, it needs to be
So
probably
it wouldn't
rewritten
just
to
be a
clear.
language change. It would be a whole procedure change where you're actually giving the mayor, or not giving the mayor as much power to veto in section 28 if we would add new language.
Or to veto all ordinance and resolutions enacted by the city, and all motions. Except ratifying. So we can veto everything except it's approving or ratifying. I'm sorry, I'm speaking loudly enough. I think the motion generally is let's take a look at that.
Do some research on that section.
And are we feeling like the council should be able to override a mayoral veto on ordinances? And I guess I personally am. I
On
think the
everything.
council should have that power. But is that the direction we want the attorney to go?
Do you know Dave has you've been on the council quite a while, do you know, has the mayor ever just vetoed an ordinance?
Not the last two mayors, but I'm not going to say the name of the mayor vetoed something very important, and it stopped cold in his tracks, and that's why these were amended, because the whole project stopped.
And that's question is, do we want the mayor to have that power or not?
It's up to the commission here. Do you want where it's vetoed and it's done?
Yeah, I mean, as I read this, the first time I was looking for, well, what happened that would stimulate a change in that language?
I won't say what mayor.
And, yeah, but I'm saying, that's a long ways back.
Yep.
So I'm not, there were actions taken to make a correction back then. What do we have now that would influence us to make a correction to what's already written? What change do we actually need there? I mean, the motion on the floor right now is to just add a reference to section 71, so you know where to go to look for it.
I think
Not
from
to
the,
change what you can veto and what can be overridden. That's a whole different question.
Right.
clear from the discussion on what we all think this means. I think it could possibly mean that the mayor has the right to veto everything. And I think you're saying that 71 says that there's an override available on some things,
But not all things.
but not all things.
Well,
And if
it
that's what it
talked
means,
about
then we
expenditures and purchases or something
I
like
think
that.
Right.
the only thing that that can be overridden right now would be payments that have not been made yet.
Okay, so then the question is, do we feel the mayor should have that power over other things that are not expenditure? Yeah.
So we should add 71 to our sections that we discuss.
For sure. And maybe we need an interpretation to be clear on 28, or is everybody, do we all agree?
It might be wise to look at both of them together.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just thinking, what if the council passed an ordinance, concerning nuisances or something? And they voted unanimously in favor of it, and the mayor said, I'm vetoing it. It's done. It sounds like.
Yeah.
And is that
And why? Yeah.
is that right? I don't know. I mean, that's something we could discuss. Usually there's that it says 4/5 on those financial things. Should the council be able to override the mayor's veto on
Everything?
everything with a maybe unanimous or 4/5 vote? It's just a matter of, it caught my attention when I read it. I was a little surprised that the mayor had the right to veto.
Given our system,
Right,
given our mayor's authority otherwise.
because we have a weak mayor system.
Yeah, because the mayor doesn't vote on anything else other than
What?
charter changes.
Yeah, charter change, they do. Well,
So the mayor could veto.
I suppose she could veto you people. So are we leaning towards somehow let's ratify and combine 28 and 71? One lump, here is the duties of the mayor, the power of the veto, get rid of it? Instead of having two sections?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think that makes sense from a
Yeah.
clerical standpoint. I'm trying to decide, to what discussion over there about, because there's another side to look at this. We got people on the city council that are all seem to be lockstep on something, and the only one that can stop them is the mayor.
Yep.
And that might be a good thing.
Might be.
It's not like we have 435 councilmen, that we just got a handful. And so, maybe having someone the ability to say, no, we really shouldn't do that. I mean, got a lot of different expertise. Depends on what the subject matter is. I don't know. I have to think about it. I hadn't really thought about it.
Well, the way it's written now is, it said there's a 4/5, it requires a 4/5 vote of the council override. Even if we did adopt something, we could get really extreme and say, it have to be unanimous consent of the entire council to override a mayor's veto. But that's said, it's just something that wasn't clear to me, first of all, and I thought maybe was I wanted clarification on it, I guess.
So isn't the motion basically wasn't the motion to kind of request a redraft and explanation, so we don't have to decide it right now?
I would be curious as, what do other towns about our size?
Right.
What do they have in there?
Some communities, the mayor has a lot of authority, St. Paul, Minneapolis, I mean,
Like Mike pointed out, we have a weak mayor system.
Right.
We have, and there's a lot of other cities that do,
Yeah.
you know, and there's a lot of other cities that have a lot more controversy than we do amongst the council as well. I don't see there being any issues with any of this with the current council and mayor. What would happen in the future, I have no
Yeah.
idea.
Well, right, and we need to write rules based on,
Right, what could happen.
I'll say that most of the cities, way over half the cities in the state are what you call statutory cities. They don't have a charter.
Right.
They're ruled by state statute, and the mayor is a voting member of the council, has no veto power, and basically votes like a council member and presides, chairs the meeting. So and when you have a charter, you're going to have a strong mayor or a weak mayor. There's just been a bunch of editorials in Minneapolis paper about Mayor Fry in Minneapolis. They recently changed the charter about a few years ago to make him a strong mayor. And people are complaining now that he and the council are, who's doing what and.
I mean, from my point of view, it's about, on one hand, you could have, I'm gonna call it a rogue mayor. On the other hand, you could have a rogue council. And how do you mitigate those? You know, how do those two bodies mitigate each other? And so it sounds like there are some avenues in here.
but it's not working.
You know, I guess I'm open to any discussion about it, or, you know,
My apologies, I thought it was a 6 o'clock meeting.
well, you missed all the fun stuff already.
So do we need to give the city attorney some direction on, as to
That's what I'd like to see.
what he's drafting?
I mean, you can have the next one, but this one's halfway through the discussion.
Keep going.
What I'm looking for then is, first basis is put the mayor in 28 and 71, put it together so it's referenced in one area. And any guidance on, you want 4/5, you want a 5-5 council override, no override? You know, what direction you kind of leaning?
I guess I trust the collective 4 or 5 more than I would as leaving the power in a single person. So, you know, if I were to amend the resolution, I would say to make that a unanimous council motion in order to override.
And that would be in all matters, not just the money matters.
Yep, ordinances, yep.
To me, that would make sense. I mean, if the council's unanimous on something, it doesn't seem like the mayor should be able to stop it. But that's just my opinion.
I would be curious what the mayor might have to say about that.
I was looking for you to call her, tonight and tell her, we pulled all your power, Mayor. You're done. No.
I would just be curious. I mean,
Well, we should find out how she feels about it, really. But, nothing is being said here tonight. We're
No.
proposing
Right.
something.
Yep.
No, this is just a matter of, I mean, is there language you want drafted, or is there just something you want the attorneys or the city manager to research more?
Yes. I mean,
No.
I would be curious as to what some other places do, and I realize they got different setups for government locally, and this whole subject is really new on a local level to me. I wasn't aware that that was actually in there either. So I would be curious as to just what others do that have a similar setup that we do. Do they have an override process? Is it 4/5? Is it 5, 5 of 5, or what exactly would that be? And I would like to know what the mayor's thoughts are. She's in the job, and sometimes the city council can be difficult. Does she have the tools, or he or she have the tools to do the job if they're going to be overridden? Having to be unanimous, that's a different wrinkle at it, certainly. And I'd like a little time to think it over. just myself. I like the whole unanimous part of it.
I like the unanimous part. I mean, it's a unanimous vote, not a 4/5, unanimous.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
have a motion on the table right now to change that language, but that's not really what we're at right now, right?
Right.
It's sounding like you want more thought put into it before you would just add that language from section 71.
Right.
to sec-
So that's one, we agree, bring the research back to us, what Nicole took down.
I think so.
All right,
And I
amend
don't
that
know if I
motion
can
or
amend it. I think she has to.
Draw the
do it.
motion.
withdraw it. If you would, shall withdraw it and amend it.
Do we need a motion just to tell the,
I don't think so.
Attorney?
I think the discussion
yeah.
enough is alone is
All
good
right.
at this point.
Okay, so to catch up, you were on section 28.
Well, yeah,
Okay,
so now on to 60.
on to 60. Special meetings.
Well, this is something else. Again, being new on the charter, and being retired, I spent a lot of time reading through this. When I first got to section 60, it's talked about the mayor, and then it said that any three members acting through the mayor. And my first thought was who, members of what, who, and then I looked at other sections, and it always talked about council members, it'd just be a clarification thing. It's obviously council members, but in looking at other ordinances, they refer to councilors or council members, and this just says other members acting through the mayor for any reason. It never mentions the word council members anywhere in this section. I just thought that might clarify things a little bit.
And Mike, I think I also picked up on, it doesn't say how many council members, it just says upon the call of members themselves. So maybe we want to make that 3 members or something that need to act to call a special meeting.
Well, it does reference 3 members. And then,
But later on, then it says.
but then later on, it just said upon the call of members themselves.
Right.
So that's not,
500-word sentence.
Yeah, I think that could be clarified too. The second part, how many members?
Was it 3 members at the bottom too?
It doesn't say.
Clarification, I agree.
for any reason, the mayor refuses to act upon such requests, then upon the call of members themselves. So the first one references the request through the mayor, then if the mayor refuses, then the members can override it.
How many members? 3, 4, 5?
Okay, so let's get wonky. So if already 3 members have called it, what difference does it make? Because once 3 members have called it, then you have to have a special meeting. The mayor's refusing to do it, so we're just talking about having the meeting, right? So any number of members can go ahead and, I mean, what we're talking about is somebody publishing, scheduling, right? How do you call a meeting?
Right now, to be honest, it's the staff that says, oh, we need a special meeting here, mayor, sign this directive.
Right,
then
and
we have the special
if the
meeting.
mayor doesn't, then another council member, whether it's one of the first 3 or not, could say under section 60, you need to schedule a meeting.
So any one member could.
Really? I think that would match up with what it says. I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to saying that it has to be 3. I'm just saying, what's the activity that we're trying to trigger?
Well, it says the call of members themselves. That would imply that more than one.
Mhm.
It'd be 2.
I thought it was 3 actually, when I read it. And I think that, so there's some issue. We got 3 city councilmen that want to have a meeting on it. We take it to the mayor. Mayor, we'd like you to schedule a meeting, and the mayor says no. For whatever reason. And then, so what's the recourse then? and I'd recourse is, well, then the three of us are gonna, on this section, we're gonna schedule that meeting.
I guess,
That's the way I understood it.
to me, it's still unclear, where it says, then upon the call of members themselves, the meeting can be called, but it does not say how many members.
How many members do you need for a quorum?
3.
Yeah.
So kind of by definition, you'd have to have 3 under every scenario. Because you wouldn't have, and if they show up and they have a meeting, then they'd have 3 or it wouldn't be a meeting.
Right. So it's either assumed the call of members themselves are the same 3 members, or we add 3.
I would add the number 3, I think.
Strike themselves.
Is that what you were kind of after, Mike, or?
Yes. I mean, it wasn't really clear to me.
Mhm. So between of and members, we would add 3. And I assume this would go to legal to look
Yeah,
at it
so
also.
it's sounding like you're all kind of in agreement that we just want everything clarified in that
Right.
section.
Right.
So we could have the language and bring it back to the next meeting for approval.
Okay. All good there? We
We're all
don't,
good with 3.
we don't need motions on that, I don't believe, until it's time to make it official.
Yeah, until you have the language to approve.
Right. Okay, section 66.
It was me again, and it was the first sentence of the second paragraph. If someone could, I wasn't sure really if it was talking about 2 different things completely, or,
Well, and this may be a statute-related, a Minnesota state statute-related thing as well. Yeah, we don't issue a lot of business licenses, but I know in relation to liquor, anytime we make changes to fees or fines or any rule changes with hours, we always have to notify all of the license holders. But that's state statute directed more so than the charter. So this may be in there just because of states.
I don't know, what kind of business licenses does the city issue?
Other than liquor or tobacco, those aren't really businesses, but
So you'd notify all the liquor and tobacco people? Okay.
and I'm sure it'll be the same with cannabis once it's added. Yeah.
So was that added from over the time when we have everything in email now? As opposed to before it was probably U.S. Postal Service? You just got to notify them that that's the way they're going to be notified.
It's like the meeting before the meeting.
But you can't really do it
Well, they have to sign up.
electronically because they don't know that yet.
They have to sign up for the electronic notice.
Okay.
So they've signed up, then the city can send them electronic notice. Otherwise, you got to do it the old-fashioned way.
Okay. Does it seem clear, or do we need any different language, or?
And the only other licenses we issue are bed and breakfast and there's 1 or 2 of each of those. So usually if there's a change coming, it's because they asked us to make a change. So we've communicated with them anyway.
So the second part of that sentence where it says, or proposed ordinances at least 10 days before a city council meeting at which the proposed ordinance is scheduled for a final vote. So any ordinance, again, you're notifying these people if there's a zoning ordinance, you notify the business license people.
It relates to that business.
Oh,
Not everybody that holds a business license, but if it relates to that type of license, then they're notified.
all right. Well, it doesn't really say that. It says, or proposed ordinances at least 10 days. That's why I thought, why are we notifying if they pass an ordinance on parking? Why are we notifying someone who comes in for a tobacco license about it?
Yeah, so this maybe could be clarified more as to,
It was confusing to me. And I wasn't sure what license the city all issued.
yeah, there's not as many as there used to be.
Are there any like annual gaming licenses? Do you issue licenses for pull tabs? Does that come from the city?
Technically, those come from the state, but the council has to approve them on a local level.
So is there,
I think it could be clarified because it just talks about proposed ordinances.
So we could have the attorneys look at that
Yeah.
section and just make sure it's clear.
okay, we'll get that for attorney review. Anything else on 66? Section 82, Board of Health.
I think I raised that one. My question is, what does the Board of Health do? Do we really need one?
I'll give you an example.
That question actually came up.
It did
Not long ago.
last year, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
State
yeah,
statute.
wasn't I here for that? Anyway, the Board of Health is not used very often, but a real example where the city used the testimony of two of our licensed physicians on how unsanitary and healthy the dwelling was, and the judge took that into consideration, and the house was raised. Without that testimony, or our chartered Board of Health, he wouldn't even have listened to it. So it worked. I mean, it's used rarely, but if you do need it,
It's there. Huh?
it's there.
Does the county have a Board of Health that could serve the same purpose?
I'm not sure.
That I don't know. If they have a Board of Health or not. I mean, they have the nursing, I don't know. That you'd have to look into if they have
Do they
one or
ever
not.
meet? Did they, or only if?
Only when called upon.
Okay, so maybe it's no big deal.
I mean, we do pay a salary to that position every month.
Yep.
But, so if we could use the county, that would be a possibility. I don't know how that would work, if they have that function or not. That's something we could research.
Okay.
Did the Board of Health comment at all for COVID and the state baseball tournament and things when it was canceled? No?
Well, not the city Board of Health, but numerous doctors had signed that petition, you know, not hold it, or it was not directly our Board of Health. I believe they got off easy on that one.
No, nobody remembered them.
No, no.
Good time to forget they were there.
So we can do some research on the county part there.
Okay, moving on to section 87, Police Department.
All right, I'll comment on that also. When I looked at that one particularly closely because I was on the police commission at one time, and I got my own notes here. It says the city manager appoints a chief of police with the participation of the police commission, but without approval of the city council. I mean, it doesn't say anywhere the city council approves the chief of police. It's just appointed by the city manager after he's consulted with the commission. I previously served on the police commission when the mayor had absolute authority to appoint the chief. After extensive interviews and consideration, the commission recommended one candidate and the mayor appointed his friend someone else. And that was the end of the story. And as I understand it, the council didn't like it and said, we want that power for ourselves. So when I read this, I thought, well, the council still doesn't have the authority. The city manager has the authority to appoint the chief of police without it consulting the council at all, just consulting the police commission, which they don't have to follow. Does the council want that authority to appoint the chief of police, or you want the city manager to have that authority? I note, for example, under the fire chief, it says,
Yeah, that's council appointed.
it says, states the city manager shall appoint the fire chief, subject to approval by the city council. It doesn't say that for the chief of police, and I don't know, maybe.
That language may be there more from before we had a full-time chief, because the council approves the assistant
Right.
chief and everything, and they approved the chief before that as well. But since we've had a full-time chief, I don't know if that language has ever been.
That's how I remember it.
So the city manager just appoints the chief.
Right now, he's treated as a department head, I guess, so
Yep.
however that works.
Well, that's not what,
Yeah.
that's not what the section says. The city manager shall have the power to appoint the chief of police and other police officers with participation of the police commission as provided in section 88. And if you look, I don't think it says, ever says anything about the council approving the chief of police. And like I said, the police commission, when I was on it, we recommended one person, and the mayor, a former police officer, appointed his buddy as the chief of police.
Chris's only comment there was the city manager is the one who has to work and trust the individual overseeing the PD and should have the final say in who that is.
Well, that's fine, if the council doesn't care. Who appoints,
As a counselor, you know what? I'd like to see it the same way we do the fire chief.
oh, who appoints the, what are the other departments?
There are a few, we defined that last year.
Right.
Like the finance, HR,
Engineer.
Engineer.
I mean, those all have to be council approval, right?
Right.
Is that what we changed it to? Along with the police and fire. I thought didn't we include the police? No, because he pulled it out of there and did it in a separate section. So I'm not sure.
Maybe we need a history of this
Mhm.
section, starting back to when the mayor's approval was removed, because that was within the last, I think I was on the
Yep.
commission when that
Yeah.
happened, so
I
it's
remember talking about
not a
it.
long time ago. Because we might have discussed that already. Not that it wouldn't necessarily change again, but there might have been some.
More insight than the past.
Yeah.
So it references all members of the board shall be appointed by the mayor, but they're talking about, oh, I'm on two different pages, sorry. Okay. So what are the wishes for this section? Review it and
Do you remember? Is that when it was amended, or how long ago was that? Been a while.
Time flies, you know. Bill, you were
Been
on when we discussed that,
2011.
weren't you,
yeah,
Bill?
June of 2011, it looks like.
Oh, right, it's right in front of us. Good point. I do think it's tangled up, though, in what Bill was referencing, that was a discussion of hierarchy and
Yeah.
the manager's role versus the council's role, and
Yeah, I mean, it was, it's, my thoughts, I mean, I'm the plant manager at AMPI. I pick my heads that work with me. I pick my own team. I'm responsible for everything they do, but I pick the team. And it kind of was the same thing with the city manager. He's responsible for what those department heads do. He gets to pick his own team, not, you know what, I like Joe over there. We're gonna put him on your team. And no. There's no way to manage an organization.
State statute says that the commission shall have the absolute control and supervision over the employment, promotion, discharge, and suspension of all officers and employees of the police department.
the police commission.
Mhm.
Not be in compliance with state statute at this point.
Which, sure. And the police commission is elected by?
It's appointed by the mayor, isn't it?
Right.
and approved by the city council.
What are you saying, Michelle?
The commissioners are appointed by the mayor and approved by the city council.
But the police commission can't, I don't think, the mayor shall have the power to appoint the chief of police and other, with the participation of the police commission. Section 88, what does 88 say?
That just says the mayor appoints the commission, but the council actually approves that.
Appoints a commission.
Right.
Mm.
So the council does approve the commission, yes. So what were you reading? Was that
State statute.
state statute? Okay. Does that, and that kind of conflicts this?
Yeah, I would just like the attorney to double check with state statute.
So I have some questions written down to research. Should the council have approval? Should it be the same for the fight as it is for the fire? Then just research some of the history. Does this agree with the 2024 department head changes? And does this agree with state statute? Just some more research and clarification on some of those points. And then discussion again at the meeting.
Okay. Anything else on 87? Moving on to 101, Library Board.
I think I raised the question here. In that section, it talks about the size of the library board being 9 members, and I recall that the mayor at one time was talking about reducing the size of some of the commissions and boards, and 9 just seems a little large to me. So I don't know if we want to act on that separately or want to refer it back to the mayor or what we should do, but.
Chris is in favor of reducing to 7 members, which is still compliant with state statute. Says no member would be kicked off but wouldn't be filled once their term expired.
Do you know, does state statute say 7?
I'm not sure what statute says. He just says 7 is still in compliance with state statute.
Yeah, that probably is a challenge to keep that members on there.
I do know the mayor is working on reorganizing some of our larger commissions.
Yeah, I'm not
And
sure where
boards.
she is with all of that in her research.
Right.
5,
think that
7,
was
or
how it-
9.
This has come up, I remember this came up before, and I think the difficulty was trying to find 9 people that would actually do that. And, do we really need 9, and should it be some other number? That's how I remember it, and
Mhm.
I
I do
don't remember
too.
what came of it, but
Well, I agree with you, Dwayne, that if state statute only requires 7, I think 9 is an awful lot.
There's 5 on the city council, but 9 on the library board?
Right.
So Michelle,
Good evening, Commission. Just to jump in here, it does allow 5, 7, or 9 members. So if you are interested in 5, that is an option.
maybe we need the input of the library board.
Yeah.
Or the
the
library.
mayor.
Or the mayor.
Library director, yeah.
Yeah.
I would agree.
So maybe check with them and then come back with more discussion next meeting.
Okay. Very good. Section 180, that was public nuisance, I believe.
And that was just a
It's lacks,
format thing, right? It just
yeah,
needs a
lacks a
heading.
title
Yeah.
was my comment on that one. It sounds like it's public nuisances or something like that, so it just needs a title.
What title should we put on there, Dwayne?
Public nuisances is what I like.
I'd like to add a whole lot more to that section, but
Here's your chance.
Yeah. So do we send that back with that recommendation?
Yeah. we can
Okay.
bring that final language back for approval.
All right, very good.
You know, as long as you brought that up, Commissioner Dwayne Hansel, I will make a comment on that. You know, you're all probably familiar, we've got our top 10 homes in New Ulm. What do we do with them? I want to talk to the city manager. Can we add more power to this in our charter? It's not just an ordinance, but it's in the charter about these vacant, abandoned, dilapidated dwellings, which our hands are tied. I mean, we get phone calls all the time about our top 10 houses where people next to them, I mean, they look like they're in the ghetto and you've got all these nice homes on the block. What can we do? Some are abandoned. Some have been boarded up. I boarded some of them up 10 years ago and they're still sitting like that.
Wow.
What, can we get more power? Maybe if we have to do it by charter where we have the right to do this or condemn it, or I know it takes an act of Congress to tear them down. I've been there, done that, but I'd like to see that. I mean, it's for the betterment of our whole community and neighborhoods. I should say top 9, one of them burned down. We have 9 left.
We don't want to comment further on how you could take care of the rest, right?
But I mean, it is a, there are some,
I think it's probably, if you want more teeth in it, I think you could probably just do it by ordinance.
Gotta believe there's state statute that talks about that, and
There are
those
some state
limitations and things
statutes.
are there.
Constitution and
You just got to jump through a lot of hoops to get it done.
I mean, I would be perfectly good with making it putting a little more teeth in it, as long as it's not in violation of some
State
higher
statute, yeah.
rule there. I mean, vacant.
it's
I worked next to
abandoned.
George's Ballroom for 25 years. I know all about
Yep.
vacant buildings and all the critters that live in it, and, you know, there's issues, kids getting in them.
Mhm. So do we send that back for the attorney
We
to
can ask,
review
yeah,
and
if there's anything more that can be done
more
there, I don't know.
that they can put into it?
that would improve our ability to get those 9 homes.
At least 5 of them I'd like to get.
Okay, anything else on 180? Otherwise, we'll move to 221, item 6. That's, refers to appoint and remove all employees of public utilities.
I think more of the
Ooh.
question is around the department head portion. I think what we're looking for is more definition as to what a PUC department head is or who those are, just for more clarification.
So on that,
Chris is suggesting working with the utility director to define those more. So maybe what we need to do is work on our end, what we feel those should be, and then bring that back for
And then
discussion
have
and
that
approval
in the
of commission.
in the charter.
The way I read this, and this is what struck me on this one, was that the city manager is supposed to appoint and remove all employees of the PUC. That's a lot of employees.
that's the way it reads, yes.
I wonder if there's similar language for all other city employees? If he is supposed to
Isn't that-
appoint.
Yeah, I'm sure. there is.
That's the city manager's job throughout the city. I think this is just clarifying that it applies to the PUC as well, because of the unique nature of the PUC. Right?
Yeah, I'm thinking about that. I was on the PUC for 9 years, and I thought the PUC operated virtually independently of the city manager and the city council. That was to be run as a business unimpeded by other political issues within the town.
But the city manager sat at all of our meetings because the city manager
Yes.
does have that authority.
Yep.
Yeah.
So what were we after here? Who put this in?
I think HR and the utility director and everybody, were, like I said, are just looking for more clarification on who the department heads are.
I
Is
think
it-
it was actually the
yeah.
public utilities director was asking
Yeah,
for
and I
it.
think there may have been a couple other questions that she had too, as far as what's listed in here for the PUC. So I think on this point, I think we just need to work with her some more on what she was looking for. And then we could bring that back.
Isn't there
With-
some
with
other
our final
language in the
recommendation.
charter about the Public Utility Commission? I don't know, I just remember, that relationship I thought was defined somewhere else. I don't have it sitting in front of me to read through.
Yeah,
it
it's
all.
like
think
way
that's
back in
true.
the beginning,
Yeah.
somewhere, or in the code. I have to look some more.
Well, yeah.
Oh, in
I-
addition to the elected officials of the city, there is to be Board of Health, the Public Utilities Commission, so the charter created the PUC. Basically.
Okay, so you'll come back with a little
I
more
think, yeah, looking for more
definition
definition
here.
on that one.
Okay. Yeah, I was on the PUC also, and we were never on TV. That's what I thought was best about that commission.
That changed when I was on there.
Maybe we caused it. Okay, so anything else on section 3? Otherwise, we need to schedule the next meeting, I believe.
Yeah, I don't know what timeline Chris was looking for there, if you just want to wait for a doodle poll and aim for within the next month again. How we want to move.
Yeah, send another poll, that'd be great.
Right. I'll try and actually jot down the right time this time. First time for everything.
Does the city use Outlook for email? Yeah, they do. So Rick won't forget, we could send it to his calendar. And it would just
You know,
pop up there.
embarrassingly enough, I think it is. I just, I had it in my head and I didn't double check. I think it goes to my Google Calendar. Yeah. We won't make the mistake
sometimes
again.
I see the email and I just go in my calendar and I just stick it in there. And then sometimes I get the invite and it goes in that way, and actually usually it comes both ways, that way I don't forget, but
Well, I didn't forget. It was. Oh, shoot. Okay, so we'll send that out. Item 4, announcements. Any announcements? Okay, then a motion to adjourn.
so moved.
Second.
Seconded to adjourn. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Same sign. Motion carried. We're adjourned.